Hello. Hi, Catherine. Hi, Daphne, Marianne, Jeff, Dolores. It's good to see you all. Verse of the Kesa. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Gata of Atonement. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. Fragrance of this incense invites the awakened mind to be present with us now. Fragrance of this incense fills our room, protects and guards our minds from wrong thinking. Fragrance of this incense unites us with precepts, concentration, and insight. We offer it for all beings. Homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I shall become one with the Buddha. I resolve that I shall each day follow the way of life he laid down for us to walk and awaken to his supreme wisdom. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I shall become one with the Dharma. The gates of Dharma are manifold. I vow to enter them all. The goal of wisdom is ever beyond. I shall attain it. I go to the Sangha for guidance. I shall become one with the Sangha. In the spirit of universal fellowship and as a member of the Sangha, I pledge myself to strive for the enlightenment of all beings. Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short, or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upward to the skies and downward to the depths, outward and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, sitting or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into the world of suffering. May I be happy and well. May no harm come to me. May I learn compassion. May all my friends, family, and those I love be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those troubled in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those who have hurt me in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those who I have hurt in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all my enemies be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all living beings be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. Do a guided meditation tonight. Take several deep breaths. Focus on letting your belly be soft so your lungs can expand and contract freely. And let your breath settle into a comfortable rhythm. No need to breathe any special way, but be aware of your breath. Know when you're breathing in. Know when you're breathing out. And bring your attention to the center of your chest, the area behind your sternum, your center, your heart. And as you exhale, let this phrase ride silently on your breath as if it's emerging from your heart as you breathe out. May I be happy. May I be free from animosity. May I be free from stress and affliction. May I look after myself with ease. And call to mind a loved one. I'm not going to give you a lot of instruction tonight. Most of you have probably done this before. But just let your goodwill toward the person that you love, parent or spouse or child, arise naturally in your heart, and just extend them your wish that they be happy and well. May they be happy. May they be free from animosity. May they be free from stress and affliction. May they look after themselves with ease. And extend the same goodwill to a close friend. May they be happy. May they be free from animosity. May they be free from stress and affliction. May they look after themselves with ease. And now a neutral person, an acquaintance. Try to sustain that same feeling of goodwill for someone that you don't really know that well. May they be happy. May they be free from animosity. Free from stress and affliction. May they look after themselves with ease. And call to mind an adversary. Extend goodwill to them. May they be happy. May they be free from animosity. May they be free from stress and affliction. May they look after themselves with ease. And finally, all beings. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from animosity. May all beings be free from stress and affliction. May all beings look after themselves with ease. To end this meditation, just let your attention settle there at your heart for a moment, just resting on the breath. Stop the process of sending out. You've got this wellspring of goodwill available to you all the time, whenever you need it. The bell will ring twice to end the meditation. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, existing right here now, and offering flowers, candles, and incense, hearing the Dharma and training the mind, great merit is attained. We dedicate this merit to the great Master Shakyamuni Buddha, the all-pervading and everlasting three treasures, the 16 guardians and all protectors of the Dharma and their relations throughout space and time, to all ancestors of this Sangha and all beings in the Dharma world. May penetrating light dispel the darkness of ignorance. Let all karma be resolved and the mind flower bloom in eternal spring. May the Dharma body maintain strength and health, and years of life be lengthened for all teachers of this Sangha. May their vows be fully realized, and may they live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma. We pray for those suffering from violence and those who grieve for them, for those living in oppression, for all who are imprisoned who should be free, for all refugees from violence, hunger, and catastrophe, man-made or natural. We pray for the health and well-being of those suffering from diseases of body, mind, or spirit, those working toward the healing of those afflictions. We pray for those suffering from COVID-19, those working to protect and treat them, and to all grieving for those lost to this pandemic. May they be serene through all their troubles, and may we realize the enlightened way together. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Mahapranya, Paramita. So hi. Hello, Ellen. Hi, Nina. I don't think you were here when I said hello to everybody before. So hello to you. Starting a recorder. So you know this thing Facebook does where they let you know about your friends' birthdays and all of that. So a longtime member of our community, who I haven't seen since before COVID, but she's still around. She had a birthday. And so I'd wished her a happy birthday. And then another longtime member of our community also wished her a happy birthday. And he had attached a photograph. And it was a photograph that showed the two of them together with a bunch of other people. And it was a nice memory. It actually was a photograph taken at an event that we did. And it was, hard for me to believe, but the photograph was taken 9 years ago, or almost 9 years ago. It was in November of 2012. Yeah, I think. And we did this event called Feed Your Mind, Feed Your Neighbor. And we did it on Black Friday. So the day after Thanksgiving, when everybody is, shopping and going crazy with the beginning of the holiday season, all that kind of stuff. We decided that we'd do something that was more generosity and gratitude focused rather than, participating in all of the sort of mindless consumerism. And so this was my brilliant idea to meditate around the clock. And it wasn't just nonstop sitting and, meditating, but we'd have meditations periodically, Dharma talks, walking meditation, breaks, meal breaks, things like that. But it was basically a 24-hour retreat, including meditating all night. And I had invited Venerable Kai Tien, who I had just barely met. I'd met him maybe during the summer. We did an event at Florida Dhammaram and invited him to come to it and give a talk. We invited speakers from different Buddhist communities around to come there and talk one day. And that's when I met him. And then I don't think I'd even been out to White Sands yet, but contacted him and asked him if he would like to come in the morning as we were finishing up and do some sort of a closing ceremony. And he did, drove all the way over from White Sands and brought a bunch of people from the community. So a bunch of people that are still there that I still know rode over, and they brought, so the deal with this event was that it was free, but admission was some sort of food item, that you could give. And then we'd take the food that was donated and we give it to the neighborhood center, which is a nonprofit here in DeLand that works with people who are in crisis, and they feed a bunch of people every year, and they try to have Christmas dinners and Thanksgiving dinners and stuff like that. And so they brought a bunch of food, including some giant 50-pound bags of rice, which was incredible. So we ended up donating to the neighborhood center, I think a half a ton of food or something. It was incredible. It didn't seem like we had that many people because almost nobody stayed there the whole 24 hours. People sort of came and went. And I think in the middle of the night, it was freezing cold. It got so cold. And we were in a warehouse in downtown DeLand that had been sort of swept out for us to use. It was usually used as a parking garage or something. And so there's no air conditioning or heat in there or anything like that. So it was freezing cold that night. And so we're meditating with blankets over our heads and everything. And I'm sure a lot of people hated me for that, but it was interesting. It was several people made it through the night, and then a bunch more showed up in the morning, for the closing ceremony, I guess, to see how punch drunk I looked after meditating all night. But anyway, it was a neat event, and it was really neat seeing that. And it reminded me really of how many reasons that we have to be grateful, for what we have and for what we have as a community and for each other, and for our teachers and our fellow practitioners and stuff. Anyway, nobody has ever said to me, hey, let's do that again. So we haven't, but it's still a reminder, and I really appreciated seeing the photograph today. So every year around this time, come back to it. Every year around this time, Greg Creech at the Tutu Institute in Vermont sends out a newsletter that's sort of often gratitude related, because it's coming up on November and, the fall, and there's holidays and Thanksgiving and all that kind of stuff. And so one year, the newsletter contained this story about a young boy whose parents were very worried because he didn't talk. Now, some of you who have listened to me speak in person a bunch of times have probably heard this story at least once, but I looked and I don't think I've told it online before. So it'll be new to some of you. But anyway, so this young boy, his parents were worried because he didn't talk. And so they had taken him to all kinds of medical doctors and psychiatrists and psychologists and ran all kinds of tests, but nobody could find anything wrong with him. And so in all other respects, he seemed quite normal, perfectly normal. He just never said anything, not a single word. And then one morning when he was about 5, he was sitting at the kitchen table and his mother was cooking and she put his breakfast down in front of him and he looked down at his plate and he looked up at his mom and he said, "Hey, you burned the toast." Well, his mom, was like thunderstruck. I mean, she picked him up and grabbed him and hugged him and kissed him and swung him around the kitchen and all that kind of stuff. She's so excited that her son has finally said something. He's finally speaking. And then after the excitement wears off, she puts him back down in his chair and she says, "Why in all this time haven't you said anything?" And the kid says, "Well, up to now, everything's been okay." So much of the time, we go through our day not noticing all there is to say because we mostly pay attention when things are not okay. Most of us have no problem finding things to complain about. Even when we realize that our life is generally pretty good, that we're okay compared to a lot of the people in the world. But in the process, we overlook a lot of the reasons that we have for gratitude. So, I've been talking about the Book of Joy and the 8 foundations of joy. And so this week, I'm going to talk about gratitude because it is one of the things that the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Tutu, point out as being a real contributor to joy, maybe even essential to it. So there was a little quote that I want to read you. And they're actually quoting Brother David Steindl-Rast, who was a Benedictine monk. And he says, "When you are grateful, you are not fearful. And when you're not fearful, you're not violent. And when you are grateful, you act out of a sense of enough and not out of a sense of scarcity, and you are willing to share. If you are grateful, you are enjoying the differences between people and respectful to all people. A grateful world is a world of joyful people. Grateful people are joyful people. A grateful world is a happy world." So, a lot of times, Buddhism does not mention gratitude directly a lot in the traditional teachings, but people often think of Buddhism in terms of things like meditation and special practices and all of that. But the Buddha really intended his teachings to be practical and to help people lead better lives by developing wisdom and practicing compassion and training the mind. And this includes cultivating mindfulness. You need to train your mind to be aware of what you're doing and to check in with yourself. And in part, that means paying attention deliberately. So we're always paying attention. We're just not necessarily paying attention in a skillful way all the time. And so using your attention skillfully will often naturally lead to gratitude. So in Pali, the language of early Buddhism, the term for gratitude is katanyu, more or less, which translates to knowing what has been done. In other words, recognizing and appreciating what others have done that supports us. So one of the things that we do in our practice sometimes is to mindfully notice and appreciate the ways that we benefit from the efforts of other beings. And I'll give you an example of this. So one morning I was out walking the dogs, and I decided that I would practice with this idea of, of just being very mindful of what had been done that benefits me. And it was around this time of year. It was starting to get cool in the morning, and it was probably a little bit later than it is now because it was really kind of crisp cool. And the first thing that I noticed was I was wearing this hooded sweatshirt that provided just the right amount of warmth. And so I started thinking about, where did that come from? What effort had gone into that being there? Well, someone had grown the cotton from which that sweatshirt was made, and others made it into fabric, and someone had designed the garment, and others cut it and assembled it and shipped it and sold it. And all of these people were involved. All these activities were involved in making that sweatshirt available to me. So I took a moment to inwardly acknowledge my gratitude, my gratitude to those people and for that object. So I live kind of on the edge of town, as some of you know, and I realized that I was on a road that had been recently repaved. And I noticed this because the last time I'd been down that road, it was kind of rough, and I had to be really careful walking early in the morning when there wasn't a lot of light, not to step in potholes. And suddenly it's really smooth. So I was grateful for that. But then I was thinking about how originally this road was built in the 19th century. And the asphalt that this road crew had just poured within the last few days was sitting on top of several layers of work that had been done by other road crews that really began with wagon loads of shell that had been excavated from midden mounds, which are, if you're not from this area, you might not have heard of these. So basically, they were these mounds of cast-off snail shells and stuff like that accumulated along the shores of the river, where these pre-Columbian people spent their winters eating the freshwater mollusks that lived in the St. Johns River. And so they developed kind of mountains of those. And when they were first building this area, they would excavate this and pull this old shell out. It was high in limestone and all of that, and then use that to make road beds with. So construction of this road that I was walking on, if you look at it this way, began thousands of years ago with the lives of some snails and, the lives of some hungry people. And so when I took that into account, and the fact that the dog's leashes and my clothes and shoes and the traffic signs and all of those things that had to be in place for me to be able to have that walk with the dogs that day, then I realized I wasn't walking alone with the dogs. I had thousands of people and other beings to thank for my ability to walk the dogs in peace that morning. So gratitude was listed by the Buddha as one of the signs of a good person. And he said there's two kinds of people that are hard to find: ones who are kind and helpful, and ones who are grateful and recognize that kindness. The Buddha pointed out that a selfish person really seems to isolate himself from experiencing the web of interdependence. If you don't appreciate the good that other people have done for you, it's very unlikely that you're going to take much joy in doing good for others. So I agree with the Dalai Lama and Archbishop that gratitude is essential to goodness, and goodness is essential to joy. So a lot of people don't like to feel obligated to other people, and so some will resist gratitude. So why practice it? What's in it for us to take this time to feel grateful? And there's actually a number of benefits. So about probably 20 years ago, a group of psychologists noticed that every major religion prizes gratitude as a beneficial mental state. And so they started wondering about that, and they experimented with this, and they found that getting people to practice gratitude actually increased their overall sense of well-being. They pretty much just had them do a gratitude journal and just write down things they felt grateful for every day. Very simple practice, but they found that over a relatively short period of time, people's expression of how good their lives were improved. So since then, a lot of other research has been done in that area. A lot of it comes from the field of positive psychology, which is where instead of studying mental illness, to find out what makes people sick, psychologists will study people who are mentally healthy to find out what makes them happy and fulfilled. And researchers find that, living gratefully increases your overall sense of well-being and satisfaction. So it makes you more optimistic. It lowers the level of toxic mental states like envy that can get in the way of your experience of happiness. So you're more likely to feel more committed and contented in things like your intimate relationships and your relationships with people at work and all of that kind of stuff. We've also found that grateful leaders tend to be more pro-social, and grateful people are more charitable. So gratitude does this by kind of increasing the frequency and degree of enjoyment that people have around pleasant emotions. So a grateful person feels happier when something good happens, and they're more likely to notice good things more often. So once you start practicing gratitude, because gratitude feels good, you'll practice gratitude more. We tend to do things that, if we experience something and it feels good, we tend to want to do it again. So gratitude sort of feeds itself. So one of the problems with happiness, if you're thinking just in terms of positive emotions and pleasurable feelings, is that they fade. Excuse me. We become habituated to them. And so the pleasure that we feel wanes. Think about, like the last time you bought a new car, how you felt about it the day you drove it home, and then how you felt about it a couple of years later after it's been, accumulated some parking lot dings and things like that, right? We tend to lose the pleasure in that sort of stuff. If you practice gratitude, you tend not to take things granted so easily. So a grateful person is more likely to appreciate a small positive thing than a non-grateful person. And grateful people tend to have more positive memories. So I mentioned that, researchers that had people write down reasons to be grateful. And that test has been replicated many times. One study shows that to kind of count your blessings, to write down up to 5 things that you have to feel grateful for once a week, has a very dramatic effect on how good you feel. But also, I think it's helpful to not get caught up in internal complaining. For feeling grateful, it's hard to feel grateful and ungrateful at the same time, right? And so when we put ourselves in a kind of positive state of mind like that, then it tends to maintain itself, and it tends to support our lives, our goals and things. So let me ask you. So if I asked you what's the theme of Martin Luther King Jr.'s most famous speech, probably all of you would say, "Well, I have a dream." That was what he said. That's kind of the title of the speech. I have a dream. And probably most of you have heard it. It's a very, very famous speech. Well, what if the theme of the speech had been, I have a list of complaints? It probably would not have been as memorable. And certainly, Reverend King had a number of legitimate complaints, but he focused on the possibilities, not the problems. And so we can still get things done, even if we don't spend a lot of time complaining about how bad things are. So, one of the things you can do if you're practicing gratitude is take a day trying to notice your inner complaining and stop it. It's a really interesting effort. And, I mentioned the Book of Joy, the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Tutu. Those two people have endured probably more loss than most of us could even conceive. The Dalai Lama lost a whole nation. Archbishop Tutu basically, he was a an anti-apartheid activist, and saw many terrible things, lived through many terrible things, and yet they're both joyful people, and they both are grateful people, which is a really interesting thing to see. So, when I was a kid, my family and almost everybody's family, that everybody I knew, said grace at the beginning of meals. And I think that's not a bad idea. You might try that when you eat. Take time to really experience the food and to notice everything it took to get that meal to your plate. So some of you have had lunch at White Sands. You notice that when the monks sit down to eat, we take a moment like this first before we start eating. Now, I don't know what everybody else says, what they're praying, but what I say, it begins with, we reflect on the effort that brought us this food. We're noticing that this is an offering we've been given. Even if I, stood in line out there and bought it myself with where they're doing the food, it's still an offering. Still there was a lot of sacrifice that went into this. Well, it'll be here when you get back, Granny. They stay up online. You can always come back and listen to the rest of it. Anyway, it's still an offering. And so to take that moment and recognize that this is something that's been made available to me, it's really profound when you really do it with mindfulness. If you don't feel like you've got someone to thank for something, to feel grateful for, you can always kind of look at the objects that support you. And so if you ever go to a retreat at one of the Soto Zen centers, like Brevard Zen Center or someplace like that, a part of the practice when you get ready through meditation is to stand up and bow to your cushion. Now, they've been supporting you all that time while you've been meditating. They've been supporting your practice. So you bow to them. It might seem strange to express gratitude to an object, but think about like what I said about the jacket, the hoodie, and all the people and processes that it took for that to be there. And then think about like the chair I'm sitting in now, all the things that had to happen. So it's made out of wood. Somebody has a tree farm and put effort into raising a tree, and then they cut it and they shape it into a chair and all of that. Same thing with cushions. It's probably covered in cotton fabric. And so somebody had to grow the cotton and somebody had to stuff it and sew it. All of those kinds of things had to happen. So if you feel funny about bowing to the cushion, bow to all of the people and other beings that went into making it available to you. Most of you are aware of the Japanese practice Nikon. And I'll do another Nikon retreat or online practice soon. So I'm not going to go into a lot of it now. But, it starts with the question, what have I received? And, just taking that moment, what has happened today? What have I been given today? What has been made available to me today so that I could live my life the way I live? That's a really good practice. And the rest of it is good too. But like I said, I'll go into that more. So the Buddha often spoke of the rarity of human birth and how precious it is. And he asked us to imagine a sightless sea turtle swimming in a vast ocean. And somewhere in the middle of that ocean, floating on the waves is a yoke, like a circle, just big enough for the turtle's head to come through. And the turtle just happens to surface with its head through that yoke. He said, that's how rare it is to be born a human being in a place where the Dharma is available. So even if you take a moment once in a while to be grateful for that, to be grateful to be where you are and to have the Buddhist teachings available to you, that will improve your life right there. So it's 8:00. Thank you for your time and attention. And I'll see some of you tomorrow on Zoom. I will not be at White Sands this week. I'll be in Palatka. So have a good week until I see you again. Take care.